July 20th, 1944. The Wolf's Lair, Rastenburg, East Prussia. The air is thick, humid, sticky with the smell of pine resin and damp concrete. It clings to the wool uniforms inside the briefing hut, the Lagerbaracke. This is the nerve center of the Third Reich, a fortress of paranoia buried deep in the Masurian woods. But today the fortress is vulnerable. Adolf Hitler leans over a massive oak table, tracing a line on a map of the collapsing Eastern Front. His voice is a low, grating monotone, a stark contrast to the booming rallies. He is complaining about his generals, about their weakness, their failures, their inability to grasp his strategic vision. Around him the true believers nod. Field Marshal Keitel, the nodding jackal. General Jodl, the tired, efficient functionary. The room is crowded with staff officers, aides, and SS guards. 23 men, trapped in this small wooden room by the force of one man's will. Outside, the clock is ticking. It is just past 12:30 p.m. A new officer enters, stepping stiffly. He is late but forgiven. His presence is expected. He is waved forward by Keitel. This is Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg. He is a striking figure, not just for his aristocratic bearing but for what the war has done to him. He is a tapestry of catastrophic injuries. He is missing his left eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left. A black patch covers the ruined socket, a single 3-fingered hand. He carries a heavy briefcase. He moves with purpose, navigating the crowded room. He needs to get close to the Führer. An SS adjutant, noticing his severe disability, helpfully steps forward to move his briefcase for him. Stauffenberg quietly directs him. Place it under the table, right by the Führer's feet. The adjutant obliges, sliding the heavy case beneath the solid oak support, near where Hitler is standing. Stauffenberg then makes a quiet excuse. He needs to take an urgent telephone call from Berlin. He steps back, eases out of the door, and walks away. He leaves behind 10 pounds of plastic explosive, set on a 10-minute chemical fuse. Inside the hut, the briefing drones on. Hitler leans further over the map, pointing, ranting. The heavy oak plinth of the table base now stands between him and the bomb. A fatal accidental shield. This is the story we think we know. The story of the bomb, the plot, the failure. But that is not the real story. The real story is not about the explosive. It is about the man who carried it. It is about the journey from golden boy of the regime to its most dedicated assassin. The German officer corps was filled with men who hated Hitler, men who saw him as a catastrophe, a vulgar corporal dragging their ancient tradition through the mud. But they were paralyzed by their oath, by their fear, by their own sense of order. They talked, they plotted, they debated, they did nothing. To kill the tyrant, the conspiracy needed more than just a dissident. It needed more than a strategist or a disgruntled field marshal. It needed a true believer. It needed someone who had been inside the inner circle, someone who had seen the monster up close and had been embraced by it. It needed the one man Hitler would never ever suspect. This is the story of that man. The story of how the regime's most loyal, most celebrated soldier became the one and only man who could, and would, try to tear it all down. This is the story of Hitler's greatest betrayal. To understand the betrayal, you must first understand the blind, absolute trust that preceded it. By 1944, Germany was losing. This was not a secret, not in the circles of the general staff. The Wehrmacht, once the terror of Europe, was being systematically ground into dust. In the east, the Red Army's Operation Bagration had just vaporized Army Group Center, a defeat so catastrophic it made Stalingrad look like a tactical retreat. Over 24 German divisions had simply ceased to exist. The road to Berlin was now open. In the west, the Allies had landed in Normandy. The beachhead was secure, the breakout was imminent, and the industrial might of the United States was pouring into France. In the skies over the Reich itself, formations of 1,000 bombers flew in broad daylight, untouched, turning German cities into fields of rubble. The Luftwaffe was a phantom. The Reich was a fortress under total siege. The strategic problem was not the Red Army. It was not the American bomber fleet. It was not the lack of oil or the collapse of the U-boat offensive. The problem was singular. It was Adolf Hitler. He was no longer a politician. He was a high priest of destruction, demanding loyalty unto death. He had withdrawn entirely from the German people, hiding in his concrete bunkers, surrounded by sycophants. His strategy was no longer strategy. It was fantasy. He moved non-existent armies on his maps, divisions that had been wiped out weeks before. He demanded that every inch of ground be held, forbidding tactical retreats, which turned every Soviet advance into a catastrophic encirclement. He was the commander-in-chief and he was driving Germany, and everyone in it, off a cliff. The old guard, the Prussian military aristocracy, saw this clearly. Men like General Ludwig Beck, the former chief of the General Staff, or General Henning von Treschow, they were professionals. They understood logistics, supply lines, and the brutal mathematics of attrition. They knew the war was over. All that remained was to negotiate a peace, to salvage what was left of the nation, to prevent its total annihilation. But how? Their entire world was built on a code of honor, of Befehl ist Befehl, an order is an order, and they had all taken the oath. The devastating Reichswehreid, sworn not to a constitution, not to the flag, not even to the nation of Germany, but to him, personally. They had sworn their lives, their souls, to Adolf Hitler. To break this oath was unthinkable. It was treason, and yet, to keep this oath was also treason, a betrayal of the German people they were sworn to protect. This was the trap. The established leadership was intellectually opposed to Hitler, but morally and psychologically neutered by their own traditions. They had tried the conventional ways. In the early years, they had sent memos. They had presented logistical reports. They had warned of the dangers of a two-front war. They were dismissed, shouted down, ignored. Hitler called them cowards, weaklings, men of yesterday. He trusted his intuition, his destiny, and for a time his intuition had worked. France fell in 6 weeks. He looked like a genius. They looked like fools. Now the tide had turned, but their paralysis remained. They formed secret circles. They drank brandy in their estates and lamented the state of the world. They drafted plans for a post-Hitler government. They talked. They talked endlessly. They were a conspiracy of intellectuals, of aristocrats, of men who believed in memos and chain of command. But they had no trigger man. They had tried. Oh, they had tried. The problem was access. Hitler was the most protected and the most paranoid man on earth. His schedule was chaos, changed at a moment's notice. His food was tasted. His planes were inspected. He was surrounded at all times by the black uniforms of the SS, men whose loyalty was absolute, whose fanaticism was a shield no ordinary bullet could penetrate. A bomb had been smuggled onto his plane, disguised as a case of Cointreau. The fuse failed. The cold in the cargo hold was too great. A suicide bombing was planned at a new uniform exhibition, but Hitler left the event early, after only a few minutes. Every attempt had been thwarted by SS vigilance, by sheer dumb luck, or by the fatal hesitation of the plotters themselves. The Gestapo, under the chillingly efficient Heinrich Himmler, was always listening. The SD, the security service, had whispers of dissent everywhere. A careless word, a single phone call was all it took. The conspirators were living on borrowed time. The net was closing. They knew that Himmler was already building a case against many of them. The ticking clock was not just the Allied advance. It was the sound of the Gestapo's heavy footsteps walking down the hall. They needed someone new, someone clean, someone who was not part of the old compromised aristocratic clique. They needed a man who could get into the room, a man who could walk past the SS guards without a second glance, a man who was not just tolerated, in fact, but welcomed. They needed a hero, a real celebrated wounded hero, a man Hitler admired, a man he trusted, a man he looked upon as the ideal of the new German soldier. They needed Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg, and to get him, they would have to convince a man who had once believed in the dream to become the man who would destroy the dreamer. The search for the assassin was over. The seduction of a loyal soldier was about to begin. This was not a sudden conversion. It was a slow, agonizing disillusionment, a chipping away of a soul. Claus von Stauffenberg was not a born conspirator. He was a born believer. He was the physical, intellectual, and moral embodiment of the German aristocracy. Tall, striking, a brilliant horseman, a devoted Catholic, and a deeply thoughtful student of history and poetry. He was everything the vulgar, street-brawling Nazis were not, and yet he had been for a time seduced. Not by the anti-Semitism, not by the thuggery. That part, he and his circle found repulsive. He was seduced by the promise of national rebirth. In the early 1930s, he saw Germany crippled by the humiliation of Versailles, hollowed out by economic depression, and torn apart by political chaos. Hitler, in those first years, seemed to be a force of order, a restorer of German pride. Stauffenberg, the passionate patriot, saw the new Wehrmacht, the rising strength, the Autobahns, and he allowed himself to believe. He was a professional soldier, and he saw his profession being restored. The first crack in the facade appeared in 1938. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. Stauffenberg was a devout Catholic. His morality was rooted in a code of chivalry, of order, of decency. What he saw on the streets of Germany was not order. It was a pogrom. It was the mob unleashed. It was ugly, chaotic, and dishonorable. He expressed his disgust openly, calling it a stain on the nation. The second crack, deeper and more profound, came in 1939. The invasion of Poland. Stauffenberg was a staff officer and he saw the reports. He saw what the SS Einsatzgruppen, the special action squads, were doing behind the lines. This was not war as he understood it. This was not soldier against soldier. This was a systematic campaign of mass murder. He learned of the mass shootings of Jews, of Polish intellectuals, of priests. He saw the regime for what it was, a government of gangsters and executioners. His honor as a soldier was revolted. The final crack came in the frozen hell of Russia. Stalingrad. As a brilliant staff officer, Stauffenberg understood logistics. He understood the brutal math of warfare, and he watched horrified as Hitler threw away an entire army, the Sixth Army, in a fit of pure egotism. He forbade their retreat. He forbade their surrender. He sentenced 300,000 men to death or a Siberian prison camp for no reason other than his own deluded infallibility. For Stauffenberg the professional, this was the ultimate sin. Hitler was not just immoral. He was incompetent. He was not just a criminal. He was a madman. The patriot in Stauffenberg now saw a new, terrible truth. To save Germany, Hitler must be removed. The oath he had sworn, the oath that paralyzed every other general, now became meaningless. He came to a cold, chilling conclusion. The oath to a madman was not binding. The true treason was to do nothing. But this was all still theory. He was an officer on the front line. He was removed from the centers of power. Then, on April 7, 1943, in the deserts of Tunisia, fate intervened. Stauffenberg's staff car was strafed by a low-flying British fighter. The attack was sudden, brutal. Shrapnel ripped through the vehicle and through him. He awoke in a hospital, a ruin. His left eye was gone. His right hand was gone. His left hand had only 2 fingers and a thumb remaining. He was, by any normal measure, finished as a soldier. But as he lay in the darkness of the hospital, healing, this ruin was forged into a weapon. His brother officers visited, speaking in hushed tones of the disaster in Russia, of the madness at the top. And Stauffenberg, the broken hero, found his new purpose. He came to believe he had been spared for a reason, that God had taken his body but left him his mind, his will in a single 3-fingered hand, to do what must be done. He told his wife, "It is time for me to do something to save Germany." He returned to Berlin not as a broken man but as a symbol. He was the ultimate hero, the man who had given everything, and the regime in its blindness embraced him. He was the poster boy. He was immediately drawn into the circle of conspirators. General Henning von Treschow, the soul of the resistance on the Eastern Front, had already met him and seen the fire in his one good eye. In Berlin, Stauffenberg met the others. General Friedrich Olbricht, a senior officer in the Reserve Army. General Ludwig Beck, the government-in-waiting. But what Stauffenberg found shocked him. He found a room full of decent, honorable, terrified men. They talked. They debated ethics. They worried about the oath. They agonized over the morality of assassination. They were, he realized, incapable of action. Stauffenberg arrived like a storm. He was not interested in debate. He was not paralyzed by the oath. He was, as he put it, ready to commit high treason. He brought a cold, hard, practical energy they lacked. He was not just a trigger man. He was a planner, a brilliant staff officer, and he saw something everyone else had missed. He saw that killing Hitler was not enough. The true power in Germany was not just Hitler. It was the SS. It was Himmler. It was the entire Nazi party apparatus. If Hitler died, the SS would simply lock down Berlin, install a new Führer, perhaps Himmler himself, and the war would continue, the regime intact. The plot needed a second phase, a way to decapitate the SS at the same moment it decapitated the Führer, and the key was sitting right in front of them, in General Olbricht's office. It was called Operation Valkyrie. Valkyrie was not a conspiracy plan. It was the regime's own official contingency plan. It was a set of sealed orders designed to be used by the Reserve Army, the only major military force still inside Germany, to restore order in the event of a major catastrophe, an Allied paratrooper landing, a massive uprising by the millions of slave laborers, or, as the plotters realized, an SS coup. This was the genius. This was Stauffenberg's unauthorized invention. He and Olbricht took the existing official Valkyrie orders and began to secretly rewrite them. The test was a masterpiece of bureaucratic subversion. The new Valkyrie orders, which Stauffenberg's three-fingered hand carefully drafted, were a Trojan horse. On the surface, they were a loyal plan to save the Reich. But hidden inside was a trigger. The moment Hitler was dead, a signal would go out from the Bendler Block, the Reserve Army headquarters. This signal would enact Valkyrie, but these new orders were different. They would state that a group of renegade SS officials had attempted a coup and had murdered the Führer. The orders, now activated, would command the Reserve Army to seize control of all major cities, to arrest the entire leadership of the SS, to disarm all Gestapo units, to secure the radio stations and government ministries. In one single brilliant move, Stauffenberg had created a mechanism to use the Wehrmacht against the SS, all under the false flag of loyalty to a dead Hitler. The army, which was so paralyzed by its oath, would finally act. They would believe they were avenging the Führer, while in reality, they would be dismantling his entire power structure, paving the way for Stauffenberg's new government. Now, all Stauffenberg needed was a way to get the bomb, and himself, into the room with Hitler. In June 1944, the regime handed him the loaded gun. In recognition of his heroic service, Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg was promoted. He was made Chief of Staff of the Reserve Army. The promotion was a fatal mistake by the Reich. It meant Stauffenberg no longer had to ask for access. He was now required, as part of his job, to attend briefings with Adolf Hitler, to report on the status of the new divisions being raised. The Golden Boy, the wounded hero, the regime's most loyal soldier, now had a briefcase. He had a plan, and he had a standing invitation to the inner sanctum of the man he was going to kill. The test phase was over. He tried twice. Once he stood down because Himmler was not present. The second time, Hitler left the meeting unexpectedly. The Gestapo was closing in. They had arrested another plotter. He was told by his superiors, "The next time there are no excuses. The next time you must not fail." That next time was July 20th, the Bendler Block, Berlin, the sprawling, imposing headquarters of the Reserve Army. This is the central node of the conspiracy, and it is a hornet's nest of ambition, terror, and fatal indecision. This is the boardroom, not a room of charts and graphs, but a series of high-ceilinged offices where men in immaculate uniforms whisper treason, their careers and lives hanging by a single, fraying thread. And in the center of this web sits the most dangerous man of all, General Friedrich Fromm. He is the commander-in-chief of the Reserve Army. He is Stauffenberg's boss. And crucially, he is the only man with the legal, unassailable authority to sign the orders that will launch Operation Valkyrie. Fromm is the system. He is the embodiment of the institutional rot that Stauffenberg is fighting. Fromm is not a Nazi fanatic. He is in some ways worse. He is an opportunist, a man of immense vanity and zero courage. He knows perfectly well what his subordinates, Stauffenberg and General Ulbricht, are planning. He sees the rewritten Valkyrie orders. He understands their true purpose, and he allows it. He allows it all to happen right under his nose, but he will not commit. This is the central conflict. Fromm keeps his hands clean. He plays both sides. He tells the plotters, in effect, that he wishes them luck. But he will not sign the order. He will not join them. Not, he makes clear, until Hitler is confirmed dead. He wants proof. He wants a body. He wants to see which way the wind is blowing before he hoists his own sail. He is the skeptical general, the rival officer, the man who thinks only of his own survival. He is the gentlemanly officer who finds all this talk of assassination distasteful, messy, and above all, risky. Stauffenberg, with his one eye and three fingers, looks at this man and sees the real enemy. He sees the cowardice that has allowed Hitler to flourish. The battle for the soul of the conspiracy is not against the Gestapo. It is against their own leadership. The older plotters, like Ludwig Beck and Karl Goerdeler, the man they have designated as the new chancellor, are little better. They are good men, honorable men, and they are utterly lost in the details. While Stauffenberg is figuring out how to smuggle a bomb past SS bodyguards, they are drafting constitutional amendments for the post-war government. They are debating cabinet positions. They are worrying about what the Allies will think. Stauffenberg, the man of action, is trapped in a room full of talkers. He rages at their deliberation. He tells them, bluntly, that their memos and drafts are meaningless if the tyrant still lives. The entire plan is a house of cards, and it is built on a single violent act. Then, on July 5, 1944, the debate ends. The Gestapo, which had been sniffing around the edges of their circle, strikes. They arrest Julius Lieber, a key plotter, a social democrat who is vital to linking the military resistance with the civilian world. A cold dread washes over the Bendler block. This is no longer a theoretical exercise. The net is not just closing, it is being pulled from the boat. They are no longer conspirators. They are fugitives. They know with chilling certainty that under torture Lieber will talk, or even if he doesn't, the trail is now hot. The Gestapo is inside. They have days, perhaps hours, before the black cars of the SS pull up to the Bendler block and arrest them all. The time for planning is over. The time for talk is over. The ticking clock is now deafening. It is Stauffenberg who makes the call. He tells the others they are no longer debating if. They are only acting now. He is scheduled to brief Hitler at his Bavarian mountain retreat, the Berghof, on July 11th. He will take the bomb. He will do it then. This is the first true gamble. He flies to the Berghof. He has the bomb in his briefcase. But when he arrives, he finds the briefing is a large open-air affair, not the concrete bunker he was expecting. And crucially, Himmler and Göring are not there. The plan had always been to eliminate the unholy trinity all at once, to kill Hitler, but leave the masters of the SS and Luftwaffe alive seemed like a tactical error. He hesitates. He cannot get close enough. He cannot guarantee success. He aborts the mission. He flies back to Berlin. The plotters are in despair. He failed. Then another summons. July 15th, this time at the Wolf's Lair in East Prussia. Again he flies. Again he has the bomb. He arrives at the briefing. He is in the room. He is feet from Hitler. But again, Himmler is absent. Göring is absent. He makes a frantic, whispered call to the Bendler block from a signals bunker. He asks Ulbricht, "What should I do?" The order comes back. Try. Do it anyway. But as he races back to the briefing hut, Hitler has already left. The meeting is over. He has failed again. He returns to Berlin that night, and the boardroom conflict explodes. The conspirators are at each other's throats. They are terrified. They have been exposed. The guards at the Wolf's Lair have noted his strange comings and goings, his urgent phone calls. Suspicion is mounting. The plotters in Berlin rage at his hesitation. Why did you not act? Stauffenberg, exhausted, tormented, rages back. You were not there. You do not understand the chaos, the security, the impossible pressure. This is the moment of the great gamble, the breaking of the rules. The entire conspiracy is about to collapse, not from the Gestapo, but from its own internal failure. It is General Henning von Treschow, the original soul of the resistance, who cuts through the panic. From his post on the Eastern Front, he sends a final, desperate message to Stauffenberg. It is a message that changes the entire nature of the plot. He tells Stauffenberg that the assassination must be attempted, coûte que coûte, whatever the cost. He says that even if it fails, the attempt itself is all that matters. The practical success of the coup is no longer the point. The world must be shown, history must record, that the German resistance movement dared to strike, that they were willing to lay down their lives to prove that not all of Germany followed this monster to the end. This is the moral catalyst. The gamble. It is no longer a political coup. It is a moral statement. It is a mass suicide pact designed to salvage the honor of a nation. Stauffenberg, a devout Catholic who had agonized over the sin of murder, is finally at peace. He has his justification. It is not murder. It is a sacrifice. On July 19th, the phone rings again. Another summons. Colonel von Stauffenberg is to brief the Führer at the Wolf's Lair at 1 p.m. on July 20th. This is it. There will be no more chances. The Gestapo is expected to act against them at any moment. Stauffenberg looks at General Ulbricht. The decision is made, unspoken. The new order is simple. There are no more conditions. It does not matter if Himmler is there. It does not matter if Göring is there. It does not matter if the briefing is in a bunker or in a wooden hut. You will go. You will arm the bomb. You will get it as close to him as you can, and you will walk away. This is the damn the rules decision. The gamble is no longer on success. The gamble is on the meaning of failure. On the morning of July 20th, Stauffenberg takes his aide, Werner von Haften, to the airfield. In his briefcase, he carries his clean shirt, his briefing papers, and 10 pounds of British-made plastic explosive. The fuse is set. The moral conflict is over. The assassin is ready. The Wolf's Lair, 12:10 p.m. The air is so humid it's hard to breathe. The fortress is a maze of concrete, barbed wire, and SS guards, all hidden beneath a dense canopy of pine. This is the most secure place on Earth. Stauffenberg and his aide, Haften, land at the nearby airfield. They are driven through a series of checkpoints, each one a steel gate with armed guards who know Stauffenberg's face. He is the hero, the guest. He is above suspicion. They are met by an adjutant, and then, the first disaster. The adjutant informs them that due to the oppressive heat and some minor repair work, the Führer's 1 p.m. briefing has been moved. It will not be in the Führer bunker. The bunker is a subterranean concrete-walled box, a sealed tomb. A blast in that confined space would have turned the air into a solid hammer, killing everyone present instantly. Instead, the briefing will be held in the Lagerbaracke, the briefing hut, a simple wooden building constructed by Finns with large open windows. It is designed to withstand a summer storm, not an explosion. Stauffenberg and Haften exchange a single, cold glance. This changes everything. A blast in an open, flimsy building is survivable. The pressure wave would blow out the windows, the walls, the roof, dissipating the energy. It is a catastrophic setback. But the new orders are clear. There are no more conditions. The attempt must be made. Stauffenberg says he needs a moment to change his shirt. The heat, he implies. He is shown to a small antechamber. He and Haften have perhaps 10 minutes. They open the briefcase. Inside are 2 explosive packages, clams, each weighing about 5 pounds. They are British-made, captured from the SOE. Now the unlikely hero faces his most personal, terrible battle. Stauffenberg, with his one eye and his 3 fingers, must arm the fuses. The fuse is a chemical pencil. He must use his 3 fingers to grip a pair of pliers, crush the small glass vial, and start the 10-minute countdown. He lays the first package on the table. He fumbles with the pliers. His ruined hand is clumsy. He takes the pliers, grips the pencil, and applies pressure. A faint snap. The acid begins to eat through the wire. The first bomb is live. He turns to the second package. He needs both. The wooden hut demands it. He needs all 10 pounds of explosive to guarantee the kill. He picks up the pliers again and the door opens. A young sergeant and adjutant sticks his head in. He has been sent to hurry the colonel along. The briefing is about to start. He apologizes, but the Führer is waiting. Panic, a cold electric jolt. Stauffenberg barks at the man, a flash of aristocratic anger. Can he not have a moment of privacy? The sergeant, terrified, stammers an apology and pulls the door shut. It is too late. The moment is gone. Haften is in a panic. They have to go now. To be found fumbling with a second bomb would be the end. They cannot risk arming the second one. Stauffenberg, in a moment of agonizing battlefield triage, makes a fatal decision. 1 bomb will have to be enough. He repacks the briefcase. It now contains 1 live bomb ticking down and 1 inert package of explosives. 5 pounds, not 10. He and Haften walk out of the room. Haften takes the second unarmed package and walks away to dispose of it. Stauffenberg, holding the briefcase in his one good hand, walks toward the sound of Hitler's voice. 30 p.m. He enters the hut. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of sweat. 23 men are in the room, crowded around the massive oak map table. Hitler is there, leaning over the map, his back to the door. Keitel, Jodl, and a host of generals and adjutants. General Heusinger is giving the briefing, his voice a drone of military ease, describing the impending collapse of the Eastern Front. Hitler is in his usual state, half listening, half absorbed in his own fantasy. This is the moment, the enemy's arrogant advance. He is here, surrounded by his worshippers, absolutely secure in his fortress at the center of his universe. He is unassailable. Stauffenberg is waved forward. Keitel, the regime's chief sycophant, greets him warmly. Colonel Stauffenberg, he announces, to report on the new divisions. Hitler glances up, a brief nod. He knows this man. He admires this man. The hero Stauffenberg murmurs an apology. He needs to be near the Führer to hear. He shuffles forward. The room is crowded. He needs to place the bomb. He looks at the table. It is a massive solid oak construction, resting on 2 huge solid supports like tree trunks, 1 at each end. Stauffenberg, using his disability as his final weapon, makes a show of being clumsy. An SS adjutant, Colonel Brandt, is in his way. Stauffenberg nudges the briefcase against Brandt's leg. He whispers, "Excuse me, I must get to the table." Brandt, irritated, moves his foot to the side. Stauffenberg bends down, with his one hand, and slides the heavy briefcase under the table. On the inside, leaning it against the thick, solid oak plinth, he has placed it less than 6 feet from Hitler's legs. He straightens up. He has perhaps 5 minutes left. He waits a beat. The briefing drones on. Then he leans over to Keitel's adjutant. He has to take an urgent call from Berlin. He needs to step out. The adjutant nods. Stauffenberg, the loyal soldier, turns his back on his Führer. He edges his way out of the crowded room, past the guards. He walks out the door, into the humid afternoon air. He steps away from the hut. He walks calmly. He does not run. He walks over to Haften, who is waiting by a signals bunker. Inside the hut, General Husinger is pointing to the map. He is describing the front in East Prussia near Rastenburg. He says the Russian is advancing in a great arc. If our army group is not pulled back at once, a catastrophe will... 12:42 p.m. The bomb explodes. The sound is not a bang. It is a deafening, splitting roar. A pillar of blue-yellow flame erupts from the center of the hut, lifting the roof straight into the air. The windows shatter, spraying glass 100 feet. The wooden walls splinter, blowing outward. Smoke, fire, and pulverized paper fill the air. Stauffenberg and Haften are perhaps 200 yards away. They are thrown to the ground by the pressure wave. The sound is apocalyptic. Stauffenberg looks at the column of black smoke and fire where the hut used to be. He sees bodies, or what look like bodies, being carried out. He turns to Haften. He is calm. He is certain. No one could have survived that. This is the moment of validation. The title, The Betrayal, is complete. The enemy, at the height of his arrogance, has been struck down by the one man he trusted. The wolf's lair erupts into pure, primitive panic. Alarms wail. SS guards are running, shouting, firing their weapons into the air. The inner sanctum, the perfect system of security, has been shattered, brought down by an impossible enemy. The enemy is in total bafflement. Who? How? Was it the Russians? An air raid? Stauffenberg and Haften walk coolly, calmly, through the chaos. They bluff their way to their car. They drive to the first checkpoint. The guard has orders. The base is on total lockdown. No one in, no one out. Stauffenberg, the hero, leans out. He is Colonel Stauffenberg. He has an urgent call to make to Berlin. The guard, confused, terrified by the alarms, hesitates. Stauffenberg is ice. He says he has the Führer's permission. He must leave. The guard, cowed by the authority, by the uniform, by the Iron Cross, lifts the barrier. They race to the second main checkpoint. Here, the guards are not so easily fooled. The alarm is at its peak. The order is absolute. The gate stays down. Haften is panicking. Stauffenberg gets out of the car. He walks to the guardhouse. He demands they call the camp commandant. He is Colonel Stauffenberg, and he will not be detained. As the officer of the watch picks up the phone, it rings. It is a call from inside the blast zone. The officer listens, his face pale. He hangs up. He nods to the guards. Let him pass. The call, by sheer random luck, was the one Stauffenberg had pretended to be making. The system in its panic has just confirmed his alibi. The barrier lifts. The car speeds away, racing to the airfield. Stauffenberg, the assassin, the traitor, the hero, is airborne. He is on his way to Berlin to tell his co-conspirators that the Führer is dead. But he was wrong. Back in the wreckage of the briefing hut, the smoke begins to clear. The scene is a charnel house. One man is dead. 3 more are dying, their legs blown off. But where is Hitler? Field Marshal Keitel stumbles through the smoke, his own uniform torn. He sees a figure, dazed, staggering. He rushes over. It is Adolf Hitler. He is alive. His hair is singed off. His right eardrum is burst. His trousers are in tatters. His right arm is temporarily paralyzed. He is covered in splinters and dust. But he is alive. The betrayal was perfect. The tactic was sound. But the execution was defeated by 4 things. By the open windows, by the flimsy floor, by the single 5-pound charge, and, most of all, by the table. When Stauffenberg had placed the bomb, he had leaned it against the thick, solid oak support. Moments before the blast, Colonel Brandt, the man who had been in Stauffenberg's way, found the briefcase annoying. He reached under the table, picked it up, and moved it. He placed it on the other side of the massive oak plinth. That single irritated gesture saved Hitler's life. The solid block of wood acted as a blast shield, deflecting the main force of the explosion away from Hitler and toward the men standing on the other side. The climax is a terrible paradox. The betrayal is total. The system is in chaos. The enemy is in a panic. The tactic has, in one sense, been proven. The unlikely hero has done the impossible. He has struck the blow, but the tyrant still lives. And as Stauffenberg's plane flies toward Berlin, the real climax, the Götterdämmerung of the conspirators, is only just beginning. The wolf's lair. 12:45 p.m. Out of the smoke, a figure emerges. He is not a god. He is a mortal man, his uniform in tatters, his skin blackened. Adolf Hitler stumbles from the wreckage, supported by a dazed, bleeding Field Marshal Keitel. He is alive, and his survival, in this moment, is more powerful than his death would have been. To his own mind, this is the final confirmation. He is not just a leader. He is a prophet. He is a man of destiny, protected by Providence itself. He screams, "I am unkillable. I am immortal." His paranoia, always simmering, now boils over into a white-hot, cleansing rage. His most loyal general, his hero. The betrayal is so total, so personal, it short-circuits his mind. He is not baffled. He is enraged. He rants about the treachery of the officer corps, the poison of the aristocracy. The weakness he always knew was hiding behind their monocles and their pedigrees. He doesn't order a systematic investigation. He orders an extermination. He gives a blank check for vengeance to the one man he still trusts, the man who was conveniently absent from the meeting. He gives the Reich to Heinrich Himmler. The enemy's reaction is not a tactical report. It is a holy war. Himmler, the mild-mannered architect of genocide, unleashes the full, terrifying power of the Gestapo, not just on the plotters, but on their entire world. He enacts the ancient tribal law of Sippenhaft, blood guilt. It is not enough to execute the traitors. Their wives will be sent to concentration camps. Their children will be taken, given new names, and sent to be raised by loyal Nazi families. Their brothers, their cousins, their elderly parents, all are guilty. The purge must be total. This is the immediate horrific legacy of the blast. The regime, wounded and paranoid, turns on itself, devouring its own. But what of the man who lit the fuse? Stauffenberg's plane lands at Rangsdorf airfield outside Berlin, just after 3:30 p.m. He is a man flying on pure adrenaline. He has seen the explosion. He knows with the certainty of a soldier that no one survived. He is coming to Berlin not as a conspirator, but as the leader of a new government. He gets to a telephone. He calls the Bendler block. He speaks to General Obrecht. He shouts, "The Führer is dead. I killed him. Activate Valkyrie, now." And the answer he gets is the sound of total systemic failure. Obrecht is paralyzed. He says, "What? Are you certain? We have heard nothing." Stauffenberg races into the city, his car speeding through the streets of Berlin. He arrives at the Bendler block, the headquarters of the conspiracy, the nerve center of the new Germany. He walks into the central office, and he finds nothing. The Valkyrie orders have not been sent. The switchboard operators are sitting at their desks, confused. General Obrecht is wringing his hands, and General Fromm, the man whose signature they need, is on the telephone. He is talking to Field Marshal Keitel at the Wolf's Lair. Fromm, the great opportunist, is trying to find out which way the wind is blowing. Stauffenberg, his one eye blazing, confronts Fromm. He tells him to his face, "Hitler is dead. We are in command. Sign the orders." Fromm looks at him with contempt. He says, "The Führer is alive. I have just spoken to Keitel. The plot has failed. Colonel, you are under arrest. This is the moment." The boardroom conflict redux, but this time it is fatal. Stauffenberg and the other, committed plotters stare at Fromm, the man who knew, the man who waited. They realize the truth. Fromm is trying to save himself. He is going to arrest them, execute them, and present himself to Hitler as the loyal soldier who put down the coup. A scuffle. Stauffenberg, Obrecht, and the other corps plotters are not soldiers. They are officers. They do not shoot Fromm. They arrest him politely. They lock him in his own office. The coup, which should have been in motion for 3 hours, now finally, pathetically, begins. It is 4 p.m. The Valkyrie teletypes begin to clatter, sending the new orders, the fraudulent orders, across the Reich, the orders to arrest the SS, the orders to secure the ministries. But it is 3 hours too late. The system, the enemy system, has already recovered. The first call that went out from the Wolf's Lair was not to the army. It was to the SS. It was to Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister in Berlin. While the plotters were debating, Goebbels was acting. He put an SS guard on the radio station. He called the commander of the Berlin garrison, a loyal general named Reimer. When Reimer arrived, confused, with Valkyrie orders to arrest Goebbels, the propaganda minister did one simple, brilliant thing. He picked up the phone, and he patched a call through to the Wolf's Lair. He handed the receiver to Major Reimer, and Reimer, the loyal soldier, heard a voice he knew, a grating, unmistakable voice. The Führer. Adolf Hitler told Reimer that he was alive, that a tiny clique of traitorous officers had tried to kill him. He gave Reimer a new order directly. "You will answer to me and to Himmler. You will crush this revolt with all necessary force. You will take your orders from no one else, the oath." It all came back to the oath. The system was too strong. The psychological chains that held the army in place, the very chains Stauffenberg had tried to use against them, snapped back. The coup evaporated in less than an hour. The units that had, for a moment, followed the Valkyrie orders, now turned around, their loyalty reaffirmed to the living Führer. Back at the Bendler block, it is a race. Fromm is freed from his office by loyal troops. He is a man in a cold panic. He sees his own death warrant in the failure of this plot. He must erase the evidence, and the evidence is standing right in front of him. He convenes an immediate summary court-martial in his own office, by the light of a single desk lamp. He tries Stauffenberg, Ulbricht, Heften, and the others. The trial lasts 30 seconds. He condemns them all to death for treason. This is the hero's quiet life. This is the end. There is no farm, no return to tinkering. The hero's moral statement must be sealed in his own blood. They are marched down the stairs into the dark courtyard of the Bendler block, illuminated by the headlights of an army truck. Fromm is in a hurry. He needs them dead before they can talk. Before they can tell Himmler's investigators that he, Fromm, knew all along. A firing squad is assembled. Stauffenberg is last. He watches his aide Heften die. He watches Ulbricht die. Then it is his turn. He stands tall, the black eye patch, the ruined body, the one unbroken aristocratic spine. He is a soldier. He has failed in his mission, but he has not failed in his moral purpose. He shouts his last words into the darkness at the men aiming their rifles. Long live our sacred Germany, the volley cracks. The betrayal is complete, the moral. What is the lesson? In the short term, the lesson was brutal. The plot failed. It failed because of an oak table. It failed because of a hesitation. It failed because of a telephone call. It failed because the plotters were decent, honorable men trying to fight a system of gangsters, and they brought rules to a knife fight. They were soldiers, not revolutionaries. But Treschow was right. The true legacy was not the failure. It was the attempt. Stauffenberg, by his act, drew a line. He proved that not all of Germany followed the tyrant. He proved that even from within the heart of the beast, there were men willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, not for victory, but for conscience. His act was unauthorized. It was treason against the established leadership, but it created a new modern doctrine. Today, the German military, the Bundeswehr, does not take its oath to a person. It takes it to the Constitution. The German army is built on a new principle, a principle called innere Führung, inner leadership. It is the official standard doctrine that a German soldier's highest loyalty is not to his superior officer or to an order. His highest loyalty is to the moral and constitutional law of the Federal Republic. A German soldier is now required by doctrine to disobey an illegal or immoral order. The old system, the one that paralyzed the generals, was Befehl ist Befehl. An order is an order. That system died in the courtyard of the Bendler block. The new system, the one that is the foundational doctrine of a modern democratic army, is the Stauffenberg principle. The unauthorized idea, for which he was shot as a traitor, is now the new standard. The man on the ground, the man with the conscience, is now finally officially the one who knows best.